Hello YouTube, it's Chris here, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program. This is a game from a company called Squad, um, who it's sort of its own genre in terms of like what kind of game it is. You'll see. It's recently gone into a beta, so let's just create a new world. I mean, a new game thing. So basically, this is a game where you basically manage your own space program. Like you fly missions and like do stuff. So yeah, let's just jump right into this. Now, an important thing to remember in this game, basically the thing with the V thing, the thing that says 25,000, that's basically how much money I have, and that's probably the most important like thing you have to make sure you have a lot of, because yeah. Now these things are basically just like contracts that give you money if you complete them, and if you fail to complete them, well, bad things happen. So let's just get the first two, because right now we can only get a maximum of two, because all these buildings here are very low tech, that they're all like tier 1 buildings. Yeah, you can probably see from the size of the pavement around the buildings how big the final ones are. But yeah, let's just jump right into this. So, our two contracts here are to launch a new vessel and to achieve an altitude of 5,000 meters. Which you can probably just do in a plane. I don't see why that's even a thing for a rocket to do. Anyway, now, right now we only have our starting parts, which is basically nothing. Yeah. But yeah, eventually we'll, develop, more, like, parts and go further. But right now we're just starting at the bottom, because, well, yeah. Anyway, enough talky for now. Let's slap a parachute on this and start going up. Okay, so now there's two things we gotta do before we launch. First is we have to press the T button, because that turned it on the Stability Augmentation System, or SAS. Also pressing Shift, I need to throttle up to 100%. Because that way you get more thrust out of your engine if you're 100% throttled, and more thrust equals you go up faster. Oh, also there's just a thing saying if you want to recover the vessel or go to Space Center. Oh, okay, this is something I completely forgot to tell you about. This thing here is your staging, which basically shows what order things are going to happen. Right here, it's going to show that the engine is going to turn off and the parachute's going to deploy at the same instant. Not entirely sure if that should happen, so let's just move the engine down by creating a new slot thing. And yeah, we should be ready to go. We've got Jeb Kerman there. Yeah, who's basically he's basically the most famous Kerbal in this game. Oh, and if you haven't been able to tell already, Kerbals are basically these green squishy alien things that you were trying to send into space. Oh, also, you can also do things like crew reports. The show's looking fighting on. Oh yeah, I knew I was forgetting something. I forgot a antenna thing, which means we can't actually transmit the data we get, because, see, if we review the report I just did, these, like, crew reports and EVA reports and other stuff that we'll do, basically they all show that they all give this, new resource called science, and if we look here, back at this thing, money counter has gone up because we've, fulfilled both our contracts, but also this little thing with the science symbol, We've got 5 science off that one experiment. Yeah, the vanilla game, which is what we're playing in this series, it's very incomplete. I mean, it's like it's not really all there. I mean, look. I mean, there's no clouds. There's the aerodynamics are a little off. Oh, also something else I forgot to do. Just ignore this. I'm too lazy to explain it. So yeah, the vanilla game or the stock game or whatever word you use to describe the game as it is, vanilla, stock, default, anything. It's very incomplete. Or like I've said, I mean, there's no clouds. There's no there's only one gas giant. There aren't any fusion engines or nuclear reactors. Um, but there are mods that can compensate for that. Everything you can possibly imagine could be added to this game, there is a mod for that. Or there is a mod being made for that. Which I think is pretty cool. If I get a lot of support for this series, then probably... I'll probably start a new series after this one, which is like modded. So now we're just going back down to the ground. And yeah, I think after this we'll do maybe one more mission and then we'll cap it off for today. If we can get down to the ground fast enough. Oh, actually that's a bit too fast. Oh. Oh, never mind, we're alright. Oh, also, we can do an EVA report here. The funny thing is in this game that even though you're grabbing onto something and you're only like a meter above the ground, the EVA report will still say you're flying over Kerbin's shores, and Kerbin's the name of the big planet here. So yeah, let's keep that data, board again, and recover the vessel. And okay, we've got a bunch of things to note here. Firstly, this is all the science we gained, which is 3.5 plus 5.6 plus 5, which is 14.1 science earned. Parts. Now, thing is, we spent money building that rocket, but since a lot of the parts used to build that rocket, except the engine, which exploded, will come down again. We can basically recycle them, which means we get our money back, or a big chunk of it. Also, these are like different types of fuel. Okay, now crew. Jeb Kerman, 1 XP gained. This is something that will come in very handy later. So, let's see what our contracts are now, because again, that's pretty much the one thing you have to keep in mind the whole... Okay, set altitude record of 1100 meters, and sure, let's try to escape the atmosphere. I usually don't bother with part testing or visual surveys contracts because they don't really work very well, so I usually try to ignore them. Now here we have this amazing thing called the tracking station, which is it's basically a map which you use to find all your spacecraft, and you can also use it to look at different planets, and it's even got little info things here. Yeah, something I love about this game is that you can see all the planets and moons in it before you actually get there. Or like for example, we can look at like the moons of this gas giant here, Joule. Yeah. Yeah, so as you can see, the solar system is quite incomplete in the stock game. There is a mod, the Outer Planets mod, or OPM, which fixes that and adds in a few more planets. I'm not going to go over all the planets and moons now. Yeah, there's Kerbal and its 2 moons. This one, the Mon, is basically just like Earth's moon, and this one, Minmus, is sort of like a really big comet that just got captured around Kerbal. Yeah, and then here's Kerbal, which is a quite nice looking place. It has a lot more landmass compared to water coverage than Earth, so its continents cover more land, if that makes any sense. Other than that, it's pretty much the same. Oh, other than the fact that it's only 600 kilometers in radius, which means it has a diameter of only 1200 kilometers, which makes it really tiny. And it's also very dense because of that. And that's pretty much a theme that goes through with everything in the Kerbal universe. Like, for example, Jool, which is the equivalent of Jupiter in this game, is about the size of Earth. Yeah. That was, it's basically a side effect of really early on in the game's development when they didn't have time warp. But anyway, enough with blibble blabble. Let's move on to this building here, the research and development. Now this is where you unlock new parts. Yep. And you use that with science points, like I've discussed earlier. So yeah, and okay, so we had enough science to unlock that. I don't think we have enough to unlock any of these. So yeah, the parts we gained from this are a couple more fuel tanks, a new science part, this is a science part, and a decoupler, which is a thing that basically snaps your rocket in half. I know that sounds bad, but trust me, it isn't. It's snapping in half without any decouplers being involved, in which case that is a bad thing. Okay, so our new contracts are, no, not that thing, to basically reach space. And to do that, we can just put 2 of these together. In fact, no, we can actually expand. When this comes back down to Kerbal, this tiny parachute here won't have enough parachute power, trademark, to get the entire stack of fuel tanks down onto the ground. So, our solution to that, which is what everyone does in real life as well, with their space capsules, is we put a decoupler there. So basically, when all this fuel runs out, we'll detach this part of the rocket off, and it'll just go flying away like that. And then this parachute only has to carry the capsule down. It means we lose a lot of money from losing all our fuel tanks, but it's worth it. At least in my opinion. Oh, and the staging actually works this time. Yes, so his parachute thing shows when the parachute's gonna eject. That's gonna be a 3rd thing to eject. Well, not eject, activate. The coupler, it's gonna be a 2nd thing, and the 1st thing will be the engine. Last time I checked, that's a good order. I mean, I'd be very concerned if your engines fire at the very end of the mission and your parachute goes off at the very start. Yeah. And now, since we are not going to be really dumb, we are going to attach this little antenna thing that will allow us to transmit our science, which means we don't have to carry it along with us. Because the crew report, which we did earlier, is something that the command pod can only carry 1 of at a time. Now this thing here, the goo containment unit, probably a bit heavy for us to carry right now. Plus it can't be reused without this new thing that you get like really far in, there's a really end game part called the science lab, which allows you to like refresh the containment units and use it again. But honestly, I think it's more logical that we just, yeah. Okay, is there anything we're missing? No, 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 no. Yeah, I'm still a little worried that this won't, be able to leave Kerbin. So, we attach two other radial engines. Actually, no, let's not do these silly liquid fuel engines, because these use liquid fuel. Let's just go with the solid fuel engine. Okay, well, we'll have to explain the difference between two. Liquid fuel engines are basically ones that you pump in a liquid fuel into, hence the name, and also a liquid oxidizer. In this case, we're using liquid oxygen and I can't remember, is this kerosene or methane? I can't remember. Maybe it's hydrogen. I don't know. Anyway, whereas the solid boosters, basically, you just have one single propellant which burns really fast. Thing is, because of that, you can't turn the solid booster off. Once it's going to keep going until all its solid fuel's been used up. That makes it a bit dangerous, but in Kerbal Space Program, it's much safer and won't spontaneously explode like a certain booster on a certain space shuttle did in 1986. And you know what, screw it, let's just go. We're gonna bring Jeb again, because why not? Also because Jeb's a pilot. The other two, the engineer and the scientist, we don't need them yet, but we need the pilot so we can, like, pilot, because reasons. And here we are with our second mission. After this, like I said, we'll probably wrap it up for today. Oh, also, we forgot to do a crew report from on the launch pad. Yep, transmit that. Yeah, you can see little antennas popping out. And now it's going to pop in again. And, yeah, let's just go. Yeah, notice how I turned on the SAS and the thrust again. Actually, I can probably just turn off our engine for this bit, because the solid boosters are doing quite pretty good with what they're doing. Yeah, you can already see that we're over 200 meters per second. That's over 720 kilometers an hour. And now we're even above that. No, even more above that. I do not know how to English today. And yeah, our altitude is soon going to surpass what our first mission reached, which is good. I'm going to need to get this engine fired up again, because these boosters have just run out of fuel. Yeah, you can see here, solid fuel, 0. Yeah, and you can confirm that back again. Yeah. This also means that our little engine, because it needs to carry these empty solid boosters, it's not actually accelerating upwards anymore. Oh wait, never mind, it is. Usually around this point, if we're going into orbit, we'd start turning like in that direction, but since we're just going straight up to reach space, we don't need to do that. But I think one of our next contracts will be to reach orbit. I'm gonna time warp a tiny bit here. Time warp basically speeds up the game a bit. Or, like, for example, it comes in handy, especially when you're like traveling long distance in space. I mean, you wouldn't want to like wait 4 months for your probe to reach another planet, and then it crashes. So you're like, oh well, start again. We're getting some pretty good altitude here. Yeah, and our velocity is actually a lot more than I even expected. The spacecraft might even be able to get to orbit if we aim the right way. And when the music comes on, that's how you know you're in space. Now, sadly, we can't EVA in space yet because our astronaut facility, which I've forgotten to show, maybe I'll show you in the next episode. Our EVA facility isn't actually capable of doing that because right now, basically every building we have is able to be upgraded. And right now we haven't upgraded any of them because we just started the game, and if we had upgraded any, you'd have seen me do that. So, yeah. So let's do a crew report from space. Seems we're very much in space below. The sky seems to be mostly below us. Well, if by the sky you're referring to that really thin blue layer thing, which you can barely even see from up here, then yes, you are certainly right. Yeah, you can also see the curvature of Kerbin around now. And if we press M, it goes into this map view, which will allow us to see how far we're going to go. It's a lot like the tracking station that I showed you earlier, um, except this is like a built-in spacecraft computer version. So yeah, we're going to reach an apoapsis of 574 kilometers, which means that we may actually be able to get a different kind of crew report, one from space high above Kerbin. A crew report while in space high above Kerbin. It's very round. Well, indeed, that is what planets are. They are indeed round. And I think we ran out of electric charge before we could finish transmitting that. And I think our antenna's permanently stuck in that position as well. Just... Oh, never mind. Okay. So we weren't able to finish transmitting that, but we managed to transmit a little bit of it, which means we got a little bit of science. We could probably unlock a few more parts with the science we have. Oh yeah, definitely. So let's separate, that, chunk of, rocket bits. And, let's ready the, let's just skip straight to, landing back on Kerbin. Yeah, you can see the planet, turning below us. Yeah. And when the music stops, you know you've entered Kerbin's atmosphere again, because we've passed the 70-kilometer mark. Unlike Earth's atmosphere, which goes up for about 200 kilometers before it becomes too thin to be noticeable. Well, even then, it does become noticeable over a long period of time, like the International Space Station, which orbits about 350 kilometers. Every now and then it has to make rocket firings to keep it from like slowing down from atmospheric drag and crashing into the Earth below. Because that would not be a good thing. Landing now, we're landing on the other side of the continent from where the Space Center is. But luckily, we can pick up our spacecraft instantaneously because apparently we have recovery teams idly waiting on every single spot on this planet's surface. Even though you can't see them, they're there. Okay, so let's deploy the parachute, and let's just wait for us to reach the ground. We seem to be landing on, what is this, some kind of like grasslands, or what? Crew reports. Oh yeah, grasslands. Actually, oh yeah, I forgot we don't have enough electricity to... Gee, I'm an idiot. Okay, just crew report, save that. And we should, land soon. That's the, parachute unfurling, because it does that instantaneously rather than gradually, like in real life. Again, there are mods to fix that, but I don't really mind that one little thing. Oh, and you can see the moon, or the mun, as this game calls it, just hanging over the horizon. Yep. I'm hoping that within a few episodes we'll be able to land something there. Probably not a Kerbal, but something. And soon we will have landed. And here we are. We can do an EVA report. Keep that. Store that. Take that. Do another report from the ground. Keep that data. And then just get back inside. See if we can't squeeze in another crew report. Yes, we can, because reasons. Yeah, usually the command pod can only store one crew report, but sometimes under certain conditions it can store two. Don't ask me why that is, I have no idea. So, recover vessel, and we'll see what we get off this. Oh, 62 sites, that's like a ton of them. I don't know. We managed to recover about $1,000 from recovered parts. And Jeb did get any XP, even though this was his first time in space. But hey, I'm not going to judge the game's logic. Now, let's get more parts. This one will allow us to get a smaller rocket engine, these landing struts for like landing on the moon and stuff, which we probably won't do for a while, but we might as well get that now, and a radially mounted parachute, which will come in handy again later on. Here we have a nose cone, which makes things look prettier. In the next version of Kerbal Space Program, they're going to have it so that nose cones actually do something, like they'll reduce air resistance, but right now they only add to it. Winglets. This particular winglet is pretty much useless, and we also get this radial decoupler, which is okay. Basically, you know that decoupler that I showed you earlier. This one. Basically, this is one, but you stick it on the side of a spacecraft, so you can like, basically, it allows you to like throw off boosters and stuff that you've already spent up. Here we get another liquid fuel engine, one which is easier to control. We get another solid fuel booster, and we get a really tiny solid fuel booster, which is pretty much useless unless you... I don't know. So let's get all that. We don't have enough science for anything else. But yeah, let's look at what our contracts are now. Actually, no, we'll look at that in the next episode. Here we have the administration building and the astronaut complex, as well as the runway, spaceplane hangar, but that will all be shown in a future episode. Until then, it's Chris here signing off.